YouTube, welcome back to another video. Hopefully we are all very, very well. All very, very well. Is that good English? I put a video on my story. Let's make myself a little bit bigger. The other day, a video on my story, a question and answers box on my story about doing this on YouTube. I've had some questions asked. Some were better than others. Some were slightly more appropriate and whatever else compared to others. So I've sort of gone with the 10 most commonly asked sort of questions, and obviously ones that were a bit more applicable as opposed to sort of, what my favorite brand of underwear is. Calvin Klein, probably. But you get the gist of sort of where things are. Now, as I've said, obviously I picked the last few, training, nutrition, my own journey. So rather than chatting a waffle, we'll get into the questions. I did get asked questions on my love life and sexuality and everything else, but I thought we'll go with more the training and nutrition and a few things about my own journey of such, because I think since I've been out here, my subscriber count has actually jumped up a fair amount in terms of percentages, so there might be a few new people. Now I'll start off with number one. How long have I been running for? So I started running playing football, but I stopped playing football when I was 18, did the bodybuilding route with training, and then started running in lockdown, the old 5K, the nominate 5 for 5K or whatever it is. But my first ever sort of running event was, I did a Coventry half marathon in October 2021, absolutely pissed it down for the whole time. However, we got 1 hour 38, which I was very happy with. I wanted 1 hour 45, but managed to clock in at 1 hour 38, which was my first running sort of event. From there, I did a couple of HYROXes. And then I didn't really run too much after that because I moved to Nottingham, and I didn't really run at all in Nottingham, if I'm being completely honest, because I was very much back into the bodybuilding side of training. So that didn't happen. And then for my photo shoot prep, which started in February 2023 until July, I used running as my cardio tool. So I think I got up to sort of an hour of cardio a week. I'd just go for 3 20-minute runs or a long one or whatever it might be. I think I ended up doing a little bit more, but I just really enjoyed it. And then I enjoyed the running, and that was the decided for, right, I want to be sort of doing more of this as opposed to getting covered in fake tan oil and being waxed. So 2021 was that first running event, but I'd say I've been running since sort of that lockdown period, but it's very sporadic and very ad hoc. Now, have I always been into sport and fitness? The answer to that is yes. I was football, played from the age of like 6 till 18. 18 came round, realised I wasn't as good. I wanted to go out Friday, Saturday night, so playing football on a Saturday and Sunday hungover was not something I enjoyed doing. But I've always been into sport, football being the main one. Most recently, sort of more combat sport, so boxing and UFC. I'd probably have UFC as number one for me at the moment, and then football, just because of the way the game is being played. It's just very robotic, very tactical and chess-like. Whereas UFC, you could watch 2 fights you've never heard of and then just have it off. Boxing's good, but they never make the best fights. They just don't. They're very political. So yes, I've always been sport. In fact, I love sport, any sport. I even watched Tour de France, fantastic Netflix series they brought out on their Drive to Survive equivalent. Formula One isn't a sport. I'm not a fan. It's boring watching cars go around in circles. So any sport, yes. Fitness-wise, yes, gym when I was 17, but again, played sport throughout school and everything else. So always been into it and always enjoyed it, which I think is the main thing. Where did you learn everything that you know? So I think for me, my first bit of learning was obviously just on myself. I used to read men's health magazines in terms of how to train, albeit Ryan Terry's workouts were not the best. But I learned all from that. And then mainly, I would say, to begin with, probably for my first few years, was first of all YouTube. Watching loads of people on YouTube, their training. I used to love watching like series of people doing like 16 weeks out from a bodybuilding show, 15 weeks out, 14, 13. You can see their body changing, and that's what got me into it all. I just learned from them. Drop your calories, training day, non-training day calories to obviously help with your deficit, cardio, steps, training philosophies, the whole shebang. I was on member sites. I was on YouTube videos. you learn more than that. You learn more doing that than your level 3. Level 3 is a load of rubbish, but it gets you obviously your qualification that you need. So that is the majority. Then obviously as I got older and developed, I worked in a fantastic gym which had loads of massive emphasis on education. So I was able to learn off some of the best in the industry, as well as obviously learning from other people that are online, different groups. And I'm still to this day learning now, especially now I'm doing more of this whole sort of strength and endurance training. I'm in some courses that's allowing me to start from scratch, have that white belt mentality. But I enjoy the learning probably more now than I ever have done, because at school, can't say I was a fan of learning. I found it a little bit boring. Whereas now, I love to watch stuff and learn, but mainly it's practical stuff. When I learn something, I like to then put it into practice. So like my own training or my own spin on things, and then I can then sort of teach it as well. So that's where I got all of that. Question number 4, a little bit different one. Advice if wanting to work remote or travel more. Well, first of all, it's why just go and do it. Second of all, most people, I think they just get stuck in a bit of a rut. They get a 9 to 5, get a partner, get a house, get whatever else, and therefore they might miss that boat. But it's never too late. If you're wanting to work remote, you don't just have to, for me, it's obviously come through fitness, through my training, through coaching, which is brilliant. Now, if you're not someone that wants to do that, there's loads of different remote jobs out there. I've got friends that do sort of sales, appointment setting, social media managing, all sorts of stuff. So it doesn't necessarily have to be just fitness. But I think for me, I couldn't do what I'm doing now. I'd definitely be doing something along those lines, because it's going to allow you obviously that freedom to travel, to obviously work from where you want to, which can be probably a little bit harder than sort of at home, because obviously you've got a lot more free time, so it's a little bit harder to have that structure and that discipline, which is something I struggled with for a bit. Whereas when you go to work, you clock in, you do your job, you clock out, and that's about it. So advice if you're wanting to work remote, travel more, find what you enjoy. I definitely go down the route of enjoyment, whether it's sales, whether it's fitness, whether it's marketing, creating, and then either set up your own thing, build it up from there, or look for sort of jobs that have a remote job sort of thing to do. So it's definitely a lot out there, and then obviously you can travel more, do what you want to do, and live the laptop lifestyle, live the beach lifestyle, go in the sea every day, which isn't quite the case, because I've been in Barcelona for 4.5 weeks and I've not been in the sea once, just been locked in. I love a locked in, these people. Hardest event you have done so far. So most people probably think I'm going to say the Ironman, which is probably not the case. The Ironman was probably the one I was the most prepared for, mentally, physically, and therefore it wasn't, and because it's such a long race, I wasn't like, oh my God, I'm about to die. I think a 5K all-out effort is probably harder in some ways. But the hardest event I would say I've done, and the toughest, would have been the 50-kilometer ultra marathon in Finland last year. And that was just purely down to poor preparation. Not because I wasn't training for it, but I didn't really practice any fueling strategies. And also my training was not the same as the race. So I didn't realise until I got there that it was actually trail. It was all off-road for the majority of it. It was all through woods, through forests, past lakes, everything. Whereas all my training had been on road, nice and flat, no hills, lovely jubbly. So of course, when I got there, after about the first 20K, it felt okay, all right. And then it got really, really difficult. Aches and pains mentally, was getting in my own head, tripping over bloody sticks and trees, and lost my head a few times, much to the amusement of my friend who was running it with me. But that, I would say, was the hardest one I've done. But definitely an eye-opener, and obviously learnt a lot from it, preparing specifically for the race event as opposed to just the distance. Question 6, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? Oh, crikey. I don't even know where I see myself next week. I think in 5 years' time, how old will I be? I'll be 30. 30. Crikey, it's not old. I'm still not at peak at 30. But where do I see myself? I think 5 years' time will be very much more a case of doing what I'm doing now, probably having a team of other coaches that deliver the same service at a high level with clients, and very much, on the whole, training for performance, training for longevity, training for health. I can see myself going that way, building more of a team, and potentially taking more of a step back from the coaching element and focusing more on a business development side of things. I do enjoy building the systems and everything like that. So I definitely probably see it going more that way. I could even see myself opening up a facility. I definitely think, it's a little bit contrary to what I've said before, but I could definitely see a gap near where I live in terms of a high level training facility, which I think could be done, because I don't really see any others near locally that are sort of how I would have it. So that could be an option. And then I could also use that to film content, long form, short form, and have that as a little hub. So yeah, probably that. In terms of my own training, still train for different things, probably mad events maybe. I think probably when I'm that age, I'd be more health optimization, high performance driven, as opposed to doing all this mad stuff, because the ultramarathons are great, but I think long term, my old joints, knees, hips are probably not going to be too much of a fan, but you never know. We'll see. So I think 5 years is always quite a long time to think away. I like to think about myself in a year. I think even that's quite a push. So yeah, I think if my mum was watching this, she'd probably want me to have a house, have a wife, and have a grandchild on the way. But the way things are going, I can't see that quite happening unless a miracle happens. So yeah, who knows? Question number 7, nutrition advice with trying to get more calories in. Okay, I'm going to keep this one nice and simple. First of all, go for foods that are high in calories, low in volume. So granolas, fattier cuts of meats, different fat sources, olive oils, avocados, peanut butter, dark chocolate. They're going to help. Okay, so that'd be my first advice. Second of all, plan it in advance. You know, if you get home and you've got 1,000 calories to eat and it's 8:30, 9 o'clock at night and you've had a long day at work, chances are you're probably not going to be able to get the right 1,000 calories in. So if you can prep it in advance, double up your meals, that sort of stuff, that's going to save you a lot of time, make it more efficient and more sustainable. And then thirdly is, like with anything, think about, is missing this meal going to put me close to the goal or take me further away? More often than not, it's going to put you further away. So that's where you need to sort of have that mindset shift of, I need to do everything I need to do in order to get that to that goal. So get the food down, yeah. But yeah, I think planning and going with foods that are going to be high in calories, low in volume, are your best bet. Number 8 is going to be supplements you would recommend to people for running and going to the gym. So supplementation wise, every day, like you've got creatine, 5 grams per day, you've got vitamin D, which obviously for a lot of us in the UK or in general who's near inside a lot, are probably lacking. So there'd be some 2 that I'd go with. In terms of like gym, whey protein, you might look at using a cyclic dextrin for an intra-workout carbohydrate source if you're training fasted or you're trying to get more calories in. And then for your running, I would be looking at electrolytes. I'd have electrolytes in the morning and after a sweaty session anyway. So that's like an everyday thing. And then for your running, you've got obviously energy bars, you choose, and obviously gels as well. And then obviously you can also use endurance-based fuel. So I use Tailwind, which is like 50 grams of carbohydrates a serving. You put 2 scoops in there, it's nearly 100 grams of carbs. If you've got a long bike ride, perfect for that. So they would be the ones I'd recommend. Definitely help. They're there to supplement. I'd still be trying to get the majority of stuff from whole foods, but when you're trying to cram in lots of calories or you're on the go, running or on a bike, then you do want to be obviously taking some supplementations. Number 9, how to warm up before a run. You don't warm up before a run. You put your shoes on, get out the door, and off you go. The first kilometers are warm up. No, I'm joking. That's what I used to do. And it wasn't only until recently where I actually took warm-ups quite seriously. So I like to do some activation work before. So if you think about running, what are the key muscle groups or key areas you're going to be using? So it's going to be, obviously, you're working using your hips, so abductors, adductors. You're going to be using your glutes. You're going to be using your hamstrings, some quadricep work, calves, tibialis. So I like to do some like glute bridges or some band work, if I can ever find a resistance band. But like glute bridges are great. I also enjoy doing some hip flexion. So just leaning on a wall, driving my knee up, 10 on each side just to get the hips moving. I'll then go into some like leg swings, both to the side and in front. Some like little gorilla squats, so squatting down, then shifting the hips up whilst trying to keep the legs nice and straight. Again, good for the hamstrings, stretching those and everything else. And then obviously you've got your calf stuff, plyometric work. You could do your pogo jumps, they're great. Firing up your central nervous system, as well as obviously just getting a little bit of ground contact force. So yeah, I'll be definitely doing that. I probably will be making more content based around that, because I know it's something a lot of people neglect and aren't sure as what to do, because doing a few open the gate, close the gate, and whatever else is probably not going to be enough, especially if you wanted to get better at running and stay injury free. But yeah, definitely spend 5-10 minutes warming up before. And then number 10 is any future travel plans. So at this moment in time, we are in October? No, August. Where did I get October from? So I've obviously been in Barcelona since the July the 13th, and it's now August the 13th, 14th. So I go to Girona on a Sunday, which is down the coast, there till Wednesday. And then Wednesday till the following Sunday, I'm at my dad's, which I believe takes me to the 31st of August. So I would have done majority of July, all of August out here in Spain. September, I've got my 2 ultra marathons. So the plan for that is to stay local. So that's where I am with that. October, there's nothing been booked for October, but it depended on a few things because I might be moving somewhere more permanent. I'm not too sure yet. If that does happen, then I'll be based up in Manchester. If that doesn't happen, then I'll probably head to Cyprus again. Because luckily we've got a family apartment there, so I can go there. It's not going to eat away at my visa, so my days I can spend outside of the EU. So that's always a good place, and the weather's quite nice that sort of time of year. November, we'll have to think of somewhere because November back in the UK is not the one. Yeah, probably one of the worst months. Although it's my mum's birthday, so I'll make sure to stay about for that, which is at the start of the month, and then go somewhere else after. I'm not too sure. A few of the lads that I know are out in Dubai, so I might go over there and enjoy a bit of sunshine, but we shall see. And then December, again, nothing for the majority of the month, but after Christmas, we are in Saudi Arabia. So looking forward to that. It'll be a different trip. So doing Jeddah and Riyadh. And then January, the plan is to go back out to Marbella like I did this year, January to April, and then potentially looking at May, going over to Asia, Southeast Asia. Whereabouts, I'm not too sure. Obviously, you've got Bali, which is great. I'd like to go to Thailand, do a Muay Thai training camp for 2 weeks in Phuket or Koh Samui. So a little bit different, just get absolutely battered for 2 weeks, but I think it'd be a really cool experience and something that would be good to go and do. So that are the plans, but nothing is set in stone at the moment. You can just make it up as I go along, if I'm being completely honest. So there we go. That is a few questions answered. I don't want to waffle on any longer than I need to, but hopefully it just gives you a little bit more of an insight as to a little bit of advice, sort of a little bit about myself and obviously future plans. But if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.